I'm not supposed to be awake. The pills the doctor prescribed make my eyelids heavy, my body slack, my mind float just above the edges of sleep, but tonight something's different. The clock on the nightstand glows to 14 a.m. My husband, Mark, is not in bed. His side is cold, the blanket folded back. Through the faint crack in our bedroom door, I hear a voice, low, urgent, Mark's voice. I hold my breath and strain my ears. She's not getting better. I can't keep this up much longer. The words hit me in the chest like a fist. Silence. Then a muffled reply. Too faint to make out, Mark exhales sharply. No, I told you the accident did half the work. We just have to be patient. My fingers curl into the sheets. The accident, the icy road, the crash, the months of rehab, the wheelchair. Me. I fight the urge to sit up, the pain in my ribs flares, reminding me I'm still broken in places I can't see. He speaks again, quieter now. Yes, I still love you, you know that, but she's here, and she's in the way. A faint rustle. Maybe he's pacing. Maybe he's running a hand through his hair like he does when he's cornered. In the way. My stomach knots. My mind flashes to the night of the accident. His hands on the steering wheel. His sharp turn, the screech of tires. He said, "It was a deer in the road." He said, "I hear a scrape." The sound of the chair being pulled from the kitchen table. His voice is clearer now. "It'll be over soon. I promise you." Another pause, then. Soft and intimate, "I can't wait to be free." I clamp a trembling hand over my mouth, because the sound rising in my throat is closer to a sob than a breath. The call ends. His footsteps are slow, measured, coming toward the bedroom. I drop my head back onto the pillow, eyes closed, breathing, deep and steady, the way I've practiced since the accident. He pushes the door open, waits. I can feel his eyes on me, searching my face for any sign of wakefulness. My pulse thunders in my ears. The mattress dips as he sits beside me. His hand strokes my hair gently, too gently. "You're tougher than you look," he whispers. I can smell the faint tang of whiskey on his breath. Then he leans close, his lips brushing my ear. "Just a little longer, sweetheart. 3 months ago, I thought Mark was my anchor. When I woke in the hospital, the fluorescent lights burning my eyes, he was there. His hands were warm, his smile forced but steady. He told me I'd been in an accident, that I'd be okay, that he'd take care of everything." I remember trying to speak, but my throat felt raw. My lips cracked. He pressed a straw to my mouth, and told me not to strain myself. "Don't talk," he said softly. "Just rest. I've got you." It felt safe to believe him then. The crash itself is a blur, flashes of headlights in the snow. The sudden jerk of the steering wheel, my scream, caught in my throat as the world tipped sideways. The sound of glass shattering like ice under a boot. Then nothing. Mark told everyone it was a miracle I survived. And for the first few weeks, I believed him. He helped me bathe, cooked me soup, even read to me when the painkillers made my vision swim. People said I was lucky to have him, that most husbands wouldn't be so patient. I told myself they were right. The days passed in a haze of pills and physiotherapy. I was clumsy on the crutches, my legs weak from weeks of bed rest. Mark encouraged me, but there was always something in his eyes, a flicker I couldn't name. Sometimes when I woke at night, I'd find him watching me, not tenderly, not lovingly, but with an expression I couldn't quite read. It made me shiver, though I told myself it was just the meds playing tricks on me. Then there was the insurance money, a large settlement from the other driver's company, enough to cover my medical bills and more. I never saw the paperwork. Mark said he'd handle it, that I shouldn't stress. At first, I agreed. Stress was the enemy, the doctors said, but little things started to bother me. The way his phone was always face down, the calls he took in the garage, away from me, the nights he came home smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. Still, I clung to the picture I had of him, my devoted husband, my protector, because if that picture was wrong, then everything I thought I knew about my life was wrong. It started with the perfume, a faint, floral scent that lingered on his shirt collar one night, not mine, not anything I'd worn in years. I noticed it when he leaned over to tuck the blanket around me. "New laundry detergent?" I asked. He froze for just a moment, too quick for most people to catch, but I did. Then he smiled. "Yeah. Thought I'd try something different." I nodded, but that scent wasn't detergent, it was expensive. The kind you find in boutique glass bottles, not grocery store aisles. The next morning, I heard him in the kitchen, speaking in that same low voice I'd overheard weeks ago. I wheeled myself closer to the doorway, heart pounding. Can't. Today, she's not. The floorboard creaked under me, and his head snapped up. Who was that? I asked. No one, he said too quickly. Just a spam call. He kissed my forehead and carried on making coffee, but his hands were shaking. Another day, he came home late, claiming he'd stopped by the hardware store. I asked what he bought. He hesitated. A new wrench. I found no wrench in the house. It could have been harmless. I told myself that more than once, but then, the envelope arrived. It was thick, with my name on it. I opened it while Mark was in the shower. Inside were bank statements. My bank account. The one my grandmother had left me. Half the balance was gone, withdrawn in small amounts over weeks. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. Mark had access to that account. He always had. When he came out of the shower, steam curling around him. I tucked the papers under a blanket. That night, I lay awake, listening to his breathing, wondering how much of it was an act. Mark wasn't always like this, or maybe he was, and I just didn't see it. We met 12 years ago, in a cramped coffee shop downtown. I'd been balancing textbooks, a laptop, and a cappuccino when the lid popped off, spilling foam across my sleeve. He appeared out of nowhere, holding a stack of napkins. Rough day? He'd asked with that easy grin that would become my weakness. He was charming. He listened when I spoke, laughed at my awkward jokes, and looked at me like I was the only person in the room. I'd been starved for that kind of attention. The room tilted. She kept talking, casual, cruel, you know. He promised me it would be over by now, said the accident would make it easier, that you wouldn't fight back. I guess he was wrong. The words cut through me like glass. I hung up. My chest felt tight, like my ribs couldn't contain the air anymore. When Mark came home later, I didn't say anything, not yet. I needed him to tell me himself, and he did that night. After 2 glasses of whiskey, he sat at the edge of the bed. His voice was low, almost gentle. I didn't want it to be like this, he said, but you're not the same anymore. You're fragile, helpless. I can't live like that. My hands shook under the blanket. She makes me feel alive again. He continued, we've been together for almost a year. The accident, it just sped things up. Made me realize I can't waste my life. He looked at me like he expected me to understand. Like betrayal was reasonable if you dressed it in honesty. And then, the part that made my blood run cold, he added, soon, it won't matter. We'll both get what we want. You'll be free. And I'll be happy. He kissed my forehead and turned out the light. I lay there in the dark, my pulse loud in my ears, my mind replaying one question over and over. Free. How I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, not the face I'd loved for 12 years, but the one that had been there all along, the one I'd ignored, the one that could lie to me for months, plot around me. By morning, my body ached from the tension. Mark was cheerful, almost giddy, as he brought me coffee. His sudden good mood told me more than any confession could. He thought he'd broken me. I thanked him softly, careful to keep my voice even inside. I was building walls. The day passed slowly. I stayed in my chair, watching the rain outside, memorizing the rhythm of his footsteps in the house, the way he left his phone on silent now, the way he checked the front door twice after taking the trash out, like he was expecting someone. I started noticing details I'd overlooked before. The life insurance paperwork on his desk, my name, bold at the top, the recent date, the faint smell of gasoline on his jacket one afternoon. The way he reminded me twice how dangerous it would be for me to try going down the back steps without help. Each detail was a piece of a puzzle I didn't yet understand, but I knew what the picture would be when it was finished. At night, I began rehearsing, not for a confrontation, not yet, but for the performance I'd have to give. I let my head tilt just enough to look weary. I let my voice tremble when I asked for water. I made him believe I was still broken inside and out because if Mark thought I was weak, he'd get careless, and when he got careless, I'd be ready. It happened 2 nights later. Mark had been restless all day, pacing between rooms, checking his watch. I pretended not to notice, focusing on the slow shuffle of my feet as I practiced walking from the couch to the hallway. After dinner, he suggested I take a warm bath to relax my muscles. His tone was casual, but there was a twitch at the corner of his mouth, like he was holding something back. I agreed. The bathroom was warm, steam curling against the mirror. I gripped the edge of the tub and lowered myself in. the hot water soothing the ache in my legs. That's when I noticed. The water smelled off, not like our usual lavender bath soak, something sharper, chemical, lingering just beneath the surface. I froze. In the hallway, I heard him moving, not toward the bedroom, but lingering by the door. I dipped my fingers into the water, brought them to my nose. That sharpness again. My heart began to hammer. Without a sound, I pulled the plug, letting the water drain. I turned on the shower instead, letting the noise mask my breathing. When I stepped out, wrapped in a towel, Mark appeared in the doorway. His eyes flicked to the tub. Empty. Change of plans? He asked lightly. Yeah, I said, forcing a small smile. Wasn't in the mood to soak. He studied me for a moment too long. Then he smiled back, the kind of smile that doesn't touch the eyes. That night, I lay awake again, but this time there was no grief, no disbelief, only cold certainty. Mark wasn't waiting for time to set me free. He was making sure I wouldn't see the end of the month. The next morning, I woke with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Fear had kept me frozen, now it was fuel. Mark thought he was in control, thought I was too fragile to see the game he was playing. That would be his mistake. I started small. While he was out running errands, I went through his desk drawers carefully. Quietly, I found receipts for hotels too. Towns over, dinners for two, cash withdrawals that matched the ones from my account. I photographed everything with the small camera on my phone. Sent the pictures to a hidden email address I'd created months before. Back when my instincts first started screaming. Then I moved on to the garage. His client work tools were stacked neatly, but behind them, under an old tarp, was a red gasoline can, full, the same faint smell I'd caught on his jacket. I didn't touch it, just took a photo, and left everything as I found it. At night, I began testing my limits. Walking farther, standing longer, carrying more weight. Mark didn't notice. I made sure of it, keeping my limp exaggerated when he was around, letting my hand shake as if I still needed his arm for balance. He still tucked me in with that mock tenderness. Still called me sweetheart, still whispered things I knew were lies, but I whispered something too in my mind. Over and over, you don't know what's coming. Every detail I gathered was a brick in the wall I was building between us. A wall he wouldn't see until it closed in around him. Mark didn't notice the change in me. He thought the extra smiles meant I'd accepted things, that I'd settled into the slow decay he'd planned for me. But the truth was, every sweet word I gave him was bait. The first move was money. Using the spare key he didn't know I had, I opened a safety deposit box downtown. Inside, I stored copies of every document, every receipt, every text message I'd pulled from his phone while he slept. The second move was people. Quietly, I reconnected with Anna, my closest friend before Mark had pulled me away from everyone I loved. I told her only what she needed to know, that I might need her to call the police. Fast. She didn't ask questions, she just said, tell me when. The third move was the setting. Mark had been hinting at a weekend getaway to help me clear my head. The cabin his uncle used to own, out by the lake, remote, no neighbors for miles. Perfect for what he wanted to do. I told him yes. For the next week, I let him believe he'd won. I let him help me pack, smiling as if I didn't see the way his hands lingered on the rope he tucked into the duffel bag. But I packed something too. A small voice recorder, a prepaid phone, and the sharpest kitchen knife we owned. Wrapped in a sweater, the night before we left, I watched him sleep, the rise and fall of his chest, the slackness of his face. By the time the sun rose, I knew exactly how the weekend would end. And it wouldn't be with me buried in the ground. The cabin was exactly as I remembered. Old wood walls, the faint smell of damp earth, the lake just beyond the back porch, black under the moonlight. Mark unloaded the car in silence, his jaw tight. I could feel the hum of anticipation in him. He thought this was it. We ate dinner at the small table. My hands shook just enough to keep up the act. He poured me wine, the deep red swirling in my glass like blood. I didn't drink. I pretended to sip, letting it touch my lips before pouring it into the sink. When he went outside to check the firewood later, he suggested we take a walk down by the lake. His voice was smooth, but there was a hunger under it. I said yes. The air outside was cold enough to sting. The ground crunched under our boots as we followed the narrow path. He walked behind me. Too close. Halfway down, I stumbled, deliberately, and he grabbed my arm. His grip was hard, Too hard, careful, he said, but his tone was wrong. To calm Dot at the edge of the dock. He stopped, the water below was black and endless. This could be quick, he murmured. My pulse was steady now, I turned to face him. You're right, I said. Before his brow could furrow, I pressed the voice recorder in my pocket, already running against his chest. Say it again. He smirked. You think anyone will, that's fine. I cut in, pulling the prepaid phone from my other pocket, because someone's already listening from the tree line. A flashlight beam cut through the dark. Police Mark froze. The smirk slid from his face as two officers emerged, Anna right behind them. His eyes darted to me. Wide, I stepped closer, my voice low enough for only him to hear. You wanted me gone, Mark, you wanted to be free. So now you are, from me, from everything. They cuffed him right there on the dock. His protests echoed across the lake, swallowed by the night. I watched until they led him away. The red and blue lights flashing against the trees, the wind was sharp on my face, but I didn't feel cold. For the first time in months, I felt free, and I couldn't help wondering, if you were me, would you have waited as long as I did?